it's Rick here. I'm in Canberra with Mary Louise Fowler. We've just done a bit of a tour through the Parliament buildings, the capital of all of Australia. So Mary Louise, introduce yourself please, about who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Mary Louise Fowler, and I recently chaired the local organising committee of the World Congress of Families, which was held in Sydney in May 2013.
So I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask you. The first question is, what do you feel are the greatest needs or issues that families are facing?
Well, you know, when we look at the breakdown of the family, that is a huge issue, and it really impacts on the whole of society. So I think if we don't look at ways and means of strengthening each family unit, not just sort of, oh, let's support the family, but each family unit that makes up families all over the place. So for me, my passion is that we all have a responsibility, whether we're in business, whether we're an academic, whether we're a doctor, a lawyer, or a mechanic. It doesn't matter who you are or where you work. We can either do things to help families flourish by the way we behave in our business or the policies we produce, or we can diminish the family and put pressure on the family. So, I mean, I think that that's, to me, for instance, one of my passions is to look at the way the culture is impacted. And if we're going to change the way the man in the street views the family, and we need to reach them through culture. There's a limit to how much policy and how much academics can influence that sphere. To really do the job properly, the man in the street has to see that the family is indeed really important. And so, yeah, I think the entertainment industry and advertisers have a big role to play. And the other thing is, for me, is to view the role of the home itself as being the place where that family is nurtured in the home. And so the role of the homemaker is terribly important and has been terribly undervalued. And I would like to see that work as viewed as professional work, in fact, that it needs to be done to a standard that can be regarded as professional work, so it's done well. So the parents in the family come to learn how to be good parents. They come to understand how to run a well-run, clean home where people are given nutritious food, where they're loved and supported and strengthened. And that has to be the greatest profession, surely. And yet we don't count it even in our balance books for the nation. It's just completely ignored. And yet it's very productive work. And in fact, it's probably the productive work that pulls a whole society together and strengthens it. So I'd like to see a change in that. And that means an attitude change from policymakers.
Okay, so as I understand then, the issues that you're looking at are the culture that doesn't support the family, and we need to make a change in the actual fabric of how our culture is developed to help families gain the support they need to be stronger families.
And to model good families, because television shows, good movies, magazines can model good families. At the moment, what they're modelling is, in fact, behaviours that destroy families and destroy fidelity within, between husband and wife and so forth. And I think the other thing too we mustn't forget is that we know that the best type of family, that the family that puts most back into society and builds the strongest individuals, and this is not a blanket rule, but it's statistically correct, is the family that is based on a mother and a father who are married and who stay married. So that fidelity, that lifelong commitment, and it gives that structure and environment where children can be best nurtured. And also added to that, which is not exactly PC probably, is that it's the family that has a faith, so that they have a belief system and a set of values and so forth. And so we've got to understand that, therefore, as a society, we need to allow people to have faith and not to put pressure on people who have faith, to undermine them, to scoff at them and laugh at them, because these are the people, in fact, that are doing the best. And so we want more people to be in that cohort. So we should look at ways to encourage that. And so there's a lot of work to be done. The work of the home needs to be elevated to in my view, to be seen as professional work.
Yes.
And not just the work you do when you've done everything else. It's not just kind of the leftover of the day, but to create an environment where children and everyone is supported and nurtured and loved and well looked after, and where a place where they love to go to and bring their friends requires quite a bit of planning.
Yes.
And it requires the use of your intelligence and creativity. And it's those attributes, I think, that we need to recognise as having value. Whereas it's kind of looked upon at the moment, I think, as being a bit soft and mushy and of having no real value compared to having paid work outside the home. But in fact, I think it contributes mightily to the strength of society. And if people could only recognise that. But, you know, once upon a time it was understood that was important. It was never perhaps talked about. But the society was structured so that only one parent needed to earn an income in order to support the whole family. And I think unless we can afford that again, it's going to be very difficult to create that home environment, because it is a lot of work. It's actually a lot of physical work to create that. It doesn't just kind of happen on its own.
Yeah.
So I think and I think in fact a lot of people have lost some of the skills that are required, and so we may have to in fact teach a generation or two of individuals to learn the skills involved in fact creating that home environment.
Yes. And that leads me to the second question. What are some of the solutions to these issues that you see from your point of view?
Well, they're multi-layered. I mean,
Yes.
there's no one silver bullet here. And of course, I think I alluded to before that everybody, no matter what profession or field you're in, has a responsibility in this direction to strengthen the family, to strengthen the ideal of marriage as a relationship that is the best. So we see that as the ideal relationship for the raising of children, and also, as I said, every profession has a part to play in this. So whether you're in business, the environment you create in the workplace, the way you give leave and leave loadings and you pay, the way you structure holidays, shift work, all these things can have an impact on the family environment, because families we can't just see them as workers and that has comes first. That's one part of their life. And sometimes they feel most rewarded by working really hard, and because the home life isn't valued as much, they want to work more and more, because that's where they feel themselves built up as a person. But we've got to see that no, these other things are also of equal value, and therefore we have to allocate and allow that person to have the time to invest in their families. And at the moment, I don't think that's always possible. I think we demand so much in the workplace.
Yes.
And then, of course, we've got situations where we don't have enough work for people with low skills. And without productive work that is full-time, it's very hard for a person to feel they're contributing to society. That we're talking about a breadwinner here. And therefore, those we know from studies that men on low incomes who don't have full-time work they don't marry, or they don't stay married. They don't head up families very well. So and that's a growing cohort, by the way. It's a growing part of our society that we have low-income males, and they might be fathering children, but they're not in a relationship of permanence with the mother of those children. And so that's, a society that's growing. It's a part of society that's growing, and it's a part of society that's in big trouble. So somehow or other we've got to stem that tide. And so industry policy and these other things are very important. We need work for these people so that they have that feeling of that they can offer something to a spouse and their children. And so, look, there's so many things. I like to say we need to join all the dots
Yes.
because there's so many parts of this puzzle. And that's why with the World Congress of Families recently, we had sessions with business people, sessions with politicians, sessions on the professional work of the home, of entertainment, fashion, all these threads. If we can get these people to see that we have to work this together and mesh it together so that we can all be working towards the strengthening of the family.
And I was really impressed by the information that I got from the World Congress, because it has given me a greater awareness of some of these issues you're talking about, issues that I had no idea about or had really not thought about.
Mm-hmm.
Final question. Where do you think the future of family is going?
Well, if we don't stem the tide, it's going straight down the gurgler. But, you know...
I like that expression.
And you know the water down the gurgler goes the other way, down here in the southern hemisphere. But the future of the family... look, I have to be an optimist.
Yes.
But to be an optimist, we have to get the message out there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why the World Congress of Families is so important, because it's a growing movement of people in different sectors of society and people involved in all sorts of activities coming together, being inspired and going home knowing that there's a mission. We've got a job to do. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we're way off influencing the big wide world out there. But look, if we don't do it, if we don't take and grasp that task and that mission, then it really doesn't augur well for the future, because we see a very broken society in some places, and chaos, you know, in families. So I would like to think that we can have an influence, but we have to...
There's much work to be done.
Work to be done, so we need a lot of fortitude and perseverance, I think, and we need to pass the baton on. Yes. I see some fabulous young people coming forward. We had them at the Congress.
Yes.
And that was very inspiring. Young people who say, yes, I can do this in the fashion world, I can do this through technology, I can do this through entertainment, and so forth. And I think, and thinking, no, they really did inspire me. And so if we can support them, I mean, we're all getting a little tired. I don't know about you. But,
we're just starting.
You know, so we need to pass the baton on and provide that backup for them and encouragement for them to go forward. And I think that's great. And I see that's the future.
I'm reading a bit between the lines, but what I hear you saying is that we need, through our culture and changing our culture, to reach the young, just married, just having children, to help them understand the importance of family and how to be a family. Is that correct?
So, yeah, we do.
Yes.
I mean, I was dealing with a group of young people a few years ago. We got them together and asked them what were the main issues they were concerned about. Mm-hmm. And I expect them to say all sorts of stuff that maybe I wasn't aware of. And what they came up with was, at the end of the day, was in fact what most concerned them was that their marriages wouldn't last. And so I didn't even think they'd be thinking marriage, because these are 19-year-olds, you know. But that was a big concern, and they said it's because a lot of our friends, even if it wasn't in their own family, a lot of their cohort at school and university came from broken homes, and it worried their generation that if they did go into marriage, would it last? And I said, well, what would help your marriages last? What would it help? How can we help you make your marriages last? And they said, well, we need good example of how to do marriage well. What are the conversations you have? People who've been married for 40 or 50 years, how did they do it? You know, how did they conduct their homes? How did they speak to each other? Simple things like that. And did they have a routine? You know, all these simple things that we can pass on. And some of the work I know that you're doing, I think, will really contribute to that building up and regaining of that knowledge of how you actually do marriage and family life.
That is our intention, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think as long as you keep it at your task and carrying it through, that's what they're needing. Yes. They are wanting that. They may not even have people in their circle that can give it to them. So we have to provide it in other clever ways. So I think, yeah, we've got to get on with it.
Thank you so much, Mary Louise.
That's a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure meeting you, staying at your farm with you for the last 3 days, and just the knowledge and the understanding of families that you have it astounds me. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rick.